Right now, every month you wait to buy your first rental, you're probably leaving about $1,500 to $3,000 on the table without even realizing it. You still go to work, you're still paying your bills, and life looks normal, but in the background, someone else is collecting your money that could have been building your net worth and your wealth. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through on how much money you are losing out on each year by delaying your investment into real estate. So let's get started. All right, so why does waiting to buy your first rental cost you thousands of dollars each and every month? This can be broken down into four main categories. So we're gonna have the monthly cash flow, our principal pay down, our appreciation, and then our tax benefits. So our cash flow is, of course, what is remaining amount of income that is left over after our expenses and mortgage payments are made. Our principal pay down is the portion of money that you pay for your mortgage, but it's the portion that is allocated towards your principal amount, not the interest amount. And I'll go through a little example when we go through our example to kind of explain a little bit more about that. Appreciation is how much the property is growing in value over time. And then the tax benefits will consist of expense write-offs and depreciation. And it's super important that you are using a CPA when it comes to this. If you're not using a CPA, you're gonna be leaving a lot of money on the table, and you could be making some big mistakes too. And when it comes to the IRS, you do not want to mess anything up. So for the principal pay down that I just explained, it is for the principal amount only and not the interest. So what does this mean exactly? When you make a mortgage payment, it's going to be split into two amounts, right? So you're going to have your mortgage payment that, let's say, just for a quick example, you're paying $1,000 a month. Obviously, it's probably going to be a lot more than that, but let's just say it's $1,000. Now, as you pay down your mortgage, the principal amount is going to be increasing and the interest amount is going to be decreasing. And it's a little hard to tell exactly how much is going to each because every month you do make a payment, the numbers shift, even though your payment amount is going to stay the same. So in the early months to when you first get your first mortgage, it's gonna be very minimal. It's gonna go to your principal and a lot is be going to interest. Let's just say for like the first couple months, it's gonna be about like, let's say $100 is going towards your principal and then $900 is gonna be going towards interest. So if you pull out your money, you're really only going to get $100 that went to your principal pay down, right? Because 900 went to the bank, that's their profit on their end. But as you pay down your mortgage more and more, then of course this will start to flip. You'll start to be paying, $1,000, but $900 will go into your principal pay down and only $100 might go into the interest section. As we go through our example, we'll go through more. So yeah, let's just run through a quick example and explain some of these numbers and tally it all together because it's gonna be in the thousands of dollars that you are missing out on. We're gonna say we buy a property worth $350,000, right? Now we're not putting this money up front, right? We need a down payment. We're gonna be putting this on a mortgage. So we're gonna put 20% down and 20% is going to equate to about $70,000 that we have to come up with. We have $70,000 in the bank account. We've decided this property is good. We want to pull the trigger on it. We purchased the property. It costed us $70,000 out of our pocket to purchase a $350,000 home. Now we have tenants that are living in the building, right? This is an income producing asset and we want to make money from it. So for this example, let's say $2,800 a month is the income. That's how much is being produced by the tenants that are paying us rent each month. And then we have $2,100 in our expenses and mortgage payments. Of course, this is just an example again. These aren't real numbers, but this is just to show you the process of each and every step that we listed before. So for our cash flow, which was our first kind of topic, we are missing out on $700 per month. Now, it may not seem like that much, right? Because we are only making $700, but we had to put in $70,000. That's a 1% return. That's nothing, right? And that's actually going to be something I'm explaining a little later as well. But this is already $700 we're missing out on, and this is only one out of the four topics that we are going to be talking about. We still have the principal pay down, we still have our taxes and depreciation, and the appreciation of the building itself. Okay, so that was for our first topic, right? So cash flow is $700 per month. We multiply that by 12 months and we come out to $8,400 per year in cash flow that we're missing out. This is cash that could be in our pocket, but because we're delaying it, we're missing out. It may not seem like much, but let's continue on to the next topic and see how it tallies all together. The next one was principal pay down. So as I kind of explained before, we're paying $2,100 per month in expenses and mortgage payments, And again, this is just an example, but we're gonna estimate about $500 per month is going towards our principal pay down. Our mortgage payment might be, let's say $1,500, maybe even $2,000 per month out of this $2,100, but only $500 is gonna be allocated towards our principal amount. As we continue to pay down our mortgage, the principal amount that we are going to be spending is gonna be continuously increasing. Maybe halfway down the road, you're gonna start to see it flip with the interest and the mortgage principal amount. $500 will turn into $2,000 as you're closing out your mortgage and getting close to the end. So just for this example, this is going to be in the early years. $500 per month times 12 months is $6,000 that we are again missing out on because we're delaying the process. Now, this is not exactly cash in our pocket, right? This is going to be equity that we are building in the building, and we can potentially refinance later, which I will talk about. But again, it's just another back burner of money that is not being put into our net worth. So let's continue down the list, right? Now we have appreciation. And appreciation is more of a stagnant type of growth over real estate markets, and it differs year to year. For example, when we had the COVID-19 pandemic, real estate prices were going crazy and appreciation and depreciation was really drastic during those times. So this really is a base-to-base, year-to-year type of scenario. But just for this example, we're gonna estimate a 3% appreciation per year when you buy the property. It could be less, it could be more. You could be adding more value into the property and making it more, making it appreciate more value. But just for this example, 3%, right? And we had 3% of 350,000. So when we multiply these together, we get $10,500 in appreciation that we are gaining in value for our property at the end of the year. And this is just for year number 1, right? Year after year, our building is going to be appreciating in value and gaining more and more value. So just after year 1, $10,500 by simply owning it, you're making $10,500 just in the value of the property. And hopefully now you start to see how much money this is really tallying up. So now let's add in the taxes and depreciation of the building, right? And this is going to be kind of two separate topics that you can talk about because you have the tax write-offs and then you also have the depreciation amount. That can be covered in an entire video on its own. So I'm not gonna go super into detail, but just for an example, just for the number basis for this video, we're gonna be estimating about $200 per month in tax write-offs and depreciation from our investment property. So $2,000 per month times 12 months, we're looking at $2,400 per year. That again, this is not profit. This is more of a savings end, but this is money that we don't have to pay, right? The IRS is not gonna come knocking on our door saying we owe $2,400. That's an extra $2,400 that we get to keep and reinvest or fix up the building, add in some new utilities. This is money being saved and not being spent. So let's now put a total together, right? Let's put in our cash flow, which was, it was $8,400. Our principal was $6,000, so our cash flow is $8,400. Our principal pay down was $6,000. Our appreciation value was $10,500. And then we have our tax, which was $2,400 per month. So if we add this all together, we're looking at $27,300 in just year 1. And this is not including any extra increase in rents or anything else. This is just base as the property is. And to be honest, this property could be a lot better in cash flow. This is an example where we used a 1% cash on cash return. Normally, when I'm looking for an investment property, you want to be shooting for maybe like 5-6% bare minimum. So this number could be a lot more if you choose a very good investment property. So let's go back to our other document here and really talk about the 5-year impacts that you're wasting by not investing, right? We said $27,300 per year. Multiply that by about 5 years, you're getting around $130,000 and $140,000 of missed value in just a 5 years time. And again, this is not including any rent increases or refinances. If you increase those rents, your cash flow is going to be significantly higher than what we just went through on the example. The value of your building is going to be significantly higher because of the cash flow increase. So there's other things that you can do when you buy the property to boost your income even more. But you can't do that if you don't even have a property, right? So this is why it's very important to jump on the bandwagon and start getting this ball rolling. And it's super crucial that if you do want to scale, you need to be looking into refinancing out of your building. Now, what does this mean, right? You are pulling your equity out of the building tax-free, right? So as we said before with the principal paydown, you're paying a portion that's going to the principal paydown. You're taking all that money that went into the principal and you're essentially resetting your mortgage, but you get all that equity pulled out. You don't have to pay a single dime in tax, and you can use that money into a new investment property. And you can just start multiplying and multiplying your wealth years after years after years. So if you start year one, you might only get one investment property. After 2 to 3 years, you can easily jump to a second or third investment property. And then after maybe 5 to 7 to 10 years, depending on your speed and how busy your schedule is, you can easily accumulate 4 or more investment properties. Now you're making 100 grand a year by just being a real estate investor. This is the point where you can essentially quit your job if you want and start living off of the income of these properties and just managing the properties. And this is super important because, like I said, your first investment is what gets the ball rolling on all these future investments. You have to just actually start. You can't just say you want to do it and then don't do it. You need to be planning and going ahead. And waiting on your delays, again, is pushing that financial trajectory by years and years down the road. Imagine how far you can be in 10 to 20 years by now if you start today in real estate investing. Not only for yourself, but this could be for your future kids. This can be for your family. You're building generational wealth. And every year that you are not building generational wealth for yourself and for your future family, you are paying someone else's mortgage, right? You're giving that money to someone else and they're putting it into their pockets for their kids' futures. What should I do, right? That's the big question that a lot of people do. And you need to start planning. You need to start planning and organizing your life, getting ready for this investment, and you need to know what you're doing. So step number 1 is going to be earning and saving as much as possible. Like I said before in the example, if we're coming up with $70,000, that's not a small number. That's a lot of money, right? And you need to be earning and saving a lot of money. So what does this mean? You need to maybe either find another job, start side hustling if you're not making that much money, or start cutting waste. You need to be cutting out expenses, cutting out a lot of money that you are wasting on maybe silly stuff you're buying online or expensive stuff that you don't need. Start selling a bunch of the junk that's maybe in your house. That's a lot of money that can be saved and used into an investment property. Or what you can do as well is if you want to partner maybe with a cousin, a friend, a family member, you can do that and then also pool your money together and put it into the investment property. So maybe instead of $70,000, you only have to come up with half, $35,000, and your friend will come up with the extra $35,000. Now you and him are on it together. You guys can both buy the property together, manage it together, and start your journeys from there. So once you start to gain more and more money, then the second step is going to be educating yourself, right? You need to be looking at YouTube videos, books, friends, getting a mentor maybe even. You need to know what you're looking for in an investment property. You don't want to just jump in blind. Now, there is a billion resources that are for free. You don't really have to pay for much in the beginning. YouTube is free, books can be free. My YouTube channel is free, right? I'm gonna be posting a bunch of content so you can learn a lot from my YouTube channel, specifically for real estate. You can be learning without having to put much effort into it, right? You just need to be spending time on actually understanding what's going on. And then the final step is to analyze and execute. You want to be understanding what the property is going to be producing. If it's a winning property, if it's a losing property, is it too expensive? Is there a problem with the basement? Is there a leak? Does it have a problem with the sewage? You need to understand what's going on in the property, right? And you're not gonna do that unless you educate yourself first. But I think the numbers honestly speak way more. So you need to be understanding how to use Excel or Google Sheets. If you don't wanna pay for Excel, then you could use Google Sheets. It's exactly the same thing as well. But I'm going to be making a video on how to build your own Excel sheet to understand the financials of an investment property so you can see if it's going to make you money, or if it's a losing property. And again, the market doesn't need to be perfect. The deal just needs to work, right? The more you delay, the more and more money you are losing out on and not putting into your own pocket. And this could be thousands and thousands of dollars. And you just need to start today. It doesn't have to mean you have to buy a property today, right? You can be buying a property 6 months from now, but you have to start educating yourself today. And if you don't start today, you're pushing down that line further and further, and you're gonna end up regretting it one day. So just get started a little bit each day, and you'll eventually get to the end. So if you have any questions, hope you enjoyed this video. You could feel free to follow me on Instagram at steve.vec, and I'll be happy to respond to you there. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you later. Peace.